I call to order April 15th, regular meeting of Whittier City Council at 7:06 PM. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin tonight's meeting, please note that digital copies of the packet are available on our website. A QR code is provided just outside the door or in the top left corner of your YouTube video. Open the phone's camera and scan that. That says I need to take my meds. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Shen?
Here.
Mr. Wagner? Absent. Mr. McAlto?
Here.
Mr. Pinkush?
Here.
Mr. Denmark?
Here.
Mr. Dickinson? Absent. Mr. Mayor?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Is there a motion and a second to excuse Dave Dickinson and Tom Wagner from tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Here, please call the roll.
Voting on the motion to excuse David Dickinson and Tom Wagner from tonight's meeting. Mr. Denmark? Mr. Denmark?
Yes.
Mr. Shen?
Yes.
Mr. McAlto?
Yes.
Mr. Pinkush?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
The motion passes, and Dave Dickinson and Tom Wagner are excused from tonight's meeting.
Citizens' comments on any agenda item except those scheduled for public hearing are welcome at this time. Those who have signed in will be given first opportunity to speak. Please note, this is not a time for dialogue. It is a time for you to speak and the council to listen. Madam Clerk, is anyone signed in for citizen comments?
No one is signed in. Your microphone's not on.
Is there a motion and a second? I think there's some changes to be made to the meeting. So let's put it on the table for the motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda and make the amendments. Following amendments, I'd like to add resolutions number 7 through 11 onto the consent agenda, as well as other new business items 12 to 14 onto the consent agenda.
12 through 14?
Correct. 12 through 14.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Mr. Mayor, first, did you want to approve a motion to amend the
Okay. Yep.
agenda, and then we can approve the agenda as amended? I know it's a
That
two-step
sounds good.
process.
No,
That's okay?
that
Okay.
sounds good.
So first, voting on the motion to amend the agenda and consent agenda by adding resolutions 2025-007 to, items. That's item numbers. To add items number 7 through 14 on consent agenda. Mr. Shen?
Yes.
Mr. Denmark?
Yes.
Mr. McAlto?
Yes.
Mr. Pinkush?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
The motion passes and the agenda and consent agenda are amended. Returning now to the motion to approve the agenda and the consent agenda as amended. Ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Shen,
Yes.
Mr. Denmark,
Yes.
Mr. McAlto,
Yes.
Mr. Pinkush,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
The motion passes and the agenda and consent agenda as amended are approved. On tonight's consent agenda are, thank you. Resolution 2025-015, authorizing the participation of City of Whittier in the Alaska Public Risk Alliance. Resolution 2025-016, authorizing signatories for all city bank, investment, and credit card accounts, and rescinding all previous resolutions in conflict herewith. Resolution 2025-017, retroactively amending the 2024 budget to record expenditures of $75,391.03 paid by the state of Alaska on behalf of the city toward the city's public employees' retirement system liability for the period January through December 2024 and appropriating funds. Resolution 2025-018, authorizing the city manager to accept grant funds in the amount of $75,000 from the state of Alaska DEC SRF DWSRF program for the purchase of a water utility backup generator and appropriating funds. Resolution 2025-019, approving a license for the use and occupancy of railroad caboose number 1076 to the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary for their training station to conduct operations and offer general boating safety resources for seafarers in Whittier, Alaska. The approval of the March 17th, 2025 special meeting minutes. The approval of the March 18th, 2025 regular meeting minutes. And finally, the non-objection to renewal of Inn at Whittier alcohol license.
So, conflict of interest, immediately after council approves the agenda at a regular meeting or special meeting, council members may declare any financial interest in a matter appearing on the agenda. Any council member or member of the public present at the meeting may question whether another council member has a financial interest in a matter appearing on the agenda. We have presentations. Alaska Marine Lines, appreciation to or for community support.
Yes, Mayor, if you want to present this report, we have some gentlemen from AML here, or this award. And this is for their community service. AML over the years, and especially lately, has done a lot of community support in the shipping industry for a lot of our projects. So if the guys can come up here this evening, we'd love to present this to them. And we just want to say thank you for everything that you have donated and offered for the city. And especially right now, we have a very large project of a playground equipment that was helped by AML that got here. So we're thankful for that. Thank you.
Slide has slid in.
Mayor, if you'd like me to do this next one, I can.
What is it?
It's for years of service.
Oh, okay.
I just want to first say that we are honoring our harbor master, Dave Borg, for his 5 years of service with the city of Whittier. So if he can please come up here, we would appreciate that.
Moving on to the Mayor's report, I don't have a report tonight. The Vice Mayor?
Nothing to report.
Okay, moving on to the city manager's report.
So Mayor, before I start my report, I would like to see if Don Stevens can come up and please give a BISWAC update.
Thank you.
Don Stevens. I'm the PISWAC, Prince William Sound Aquaculture representative for the city. We had our spring meeting in Anchorage last month. Last year was a tough year. Fish weren't as prevalent as people had hoped, and price was nowhere near what they wanted. Our cost of recovery came up a good deal short. So budgeting was a big issue for this year's meeting, trying to settle out how we're going to get it all together. As of March, things were looking a lot better. This is an odd year, so fish returns should be better, and prices were looking better according to the information we had then. It's hard to say how this tariff stuff with China will affect the fish processors. A lot of them ship their fish to China and have the pin bones removed in China and then shipped back here. So I haven't really heard much on that, how that's going to affect their operation. But other than that, we've got some big projects going this year, but mostly it's been kind of on hold until we get finance stuff sorted out for sure. The biggest project we've got in advance, looking down the road, is Cannery Creek Hatchery dam needs to be redone and raised, and that's a multi-million-dollar job. We're thinking about starting that next year, not this fiscal year, but next year. So, any questions?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
I'll just keep my report very short so that, because we do have items and individuals in the audience for other things, but I just wanted to give the council a brief update on some of the things that we've been working on, just a few. We did have a meeting on March 26th with the U.S. Department of Transportation visit, and we met with Sochi, and I cannot pronounce her last name, so I'm not going to even attempt, but we did do a tour of Whittier and the DeLong dock for a future PIPD grant, and working with rebuilding that DeLong dock and bringing in commerce for the community. That was a really, really good meeting. We were really happy that she took the effort to come to Whittier and meet with us. Shortly after that, I went to the Sea Trade and participated in that global week-long conference. There are some highlights in the report. I really did focus on attending talks that put us in a direction where it would be relevant for Whittier, what it could possibly do for us. A big thing that at both the conferences that I've attended lately that regard around cruise ship travel is how they are really pushing for the cruise line agencies to understand that they need to work within the cities that they are attending and coming to, as well as with the municipalities, and understanding that when they come, it's not just an easy, really ask for the communities in which they visit. A lot of it was this year focused on like the retail side of things and how businesses operate within these smaller communities. And at the same time, we are applying for a grant. And if we do receive that grant, it will open up the ability for us to offer trainings to our locals to help them start businesses and teach them the fundamentals of how to get to where they want to sell goods and services within our community, which helps everybody. And so it was really enlightening. It was really good meetings. I met with Huna Totem, Norwegian, Princess, everybody that visits us, but also the cruise line agencies that are talking about with those other ports to visit us. So it's really important for us to keep our finger on that pulse and keep working on how we can provide a good visitor experience without a heavy burden on our community. The other thing that I think is really important, and I just love to say this, is they really pushed on storytelling. We have a really unique story here in Whittier, and if we can all sort of push what that story is, and it is military, it's a variety of cultures that are here, and I think it's really important that that's our niche, that's our way of saying, here we are Whittier. And just anytime anybody asks you, just tell them the uniqueness of us, and hopefully we can build off of that and build a community that's thriving in the future. I've had multiple meetings with the railroad. We have a meeting on Thursday with the commissioner from DOT to talk to him about some of the plans that we're working on, including our transportation plan. And then the other thing that is in our packet is our upcoming DC travel. And since it's on the agenda later on, we'll talk about that. We do have multiple department heads attending the Alaska Infrastructure Development Symposium. I'm just going to sort of look at our public works director, because last year I sort of said, you're going. And now he's like, wow, I'm really glad I went. And it is a really good thing. It gives us a unique ability to meet the same type of people. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then I'll let any of the directors give an update if they would like.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to give the good news that we received a grant from the Denali Commission for $920,000. That purpose of that grant is to match the federal funds that we received from DOT for the Shotgun Cove Road project. So what that means is for maybe the last 10 years, we've been trying to put money aside little by little to meet our match, but we've been delaying our need to actually put the money forward into the project. We've been setting money aside for the match, but we hadn't spent it yet. And I've been promising council that we're going to work really hard to try not to spend our own money if we don't have to. And so we applied for this unique pot of money that communities that have surface transportation projects with DOT that require a match, and the community struggles to come up with the match. So anyway, that $920,000 will match the entirety of the Shotgun Cove Road project to date, the matching funds required for that. So anyway, that's great news. And the department heads are really working hard on all these grants. We're currently managing $27 million worth of grant projects. So anyway, hats off to the hard worker folks. It just means when people in the community are asking, what benefits do they receive from living in Whittier and paying taxes? And I think a big part of that is that we're all working really hard to try to improve the community, not on the backs of the local taxpayers, because we're such a small population. So anyway, just thanks to everybody for rowing in the same direction. I think it's really been beneficial.
And I just want to add on that, the kudos also go really to Chris, because she is the one who got this grant for us. And so we thank you, Chris, for the work that you do. And then I just want to end with, as I'm always saying, I want to make sure that locals know about jobs that we have open in case they're not looking at our website. Currently, we have a fire lieutenant position open, a harbor finance position open, a police lieutenant position will be coming open. We have an administrative assistant position open. And for our kids, 15 and up, we have Alpar positions, which is a wonderful program for our community. And we have an Alpar supervisor, so we're hoping to get some Alpar kids to come in and apply for that cleanup, because we do get a grant for that, and we just want to see that program succeed. That's it, Mayor.
So, Jackie, I noticed that the administration selected Dow for our safety study for the corridor from the tunnel to the ferry terminal. And was there a cost associated with that study?
Yeah, so DOT actually is funding that, and the budget, I believe, and Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was about $450,000, but the contract is directly between DOT and Dow.
Okay,
We're-
all right. So it's part of that same ball of studying.
Yeah, so there's two different plans. We have $80,000, I believe, for the Safe Streets for All. So that's separate. And then Dow is also contracted through DOT to do the transportation master plan. And our goal is to try and get those lined up. And so Dow, since they're already doing the transportation master plan, it makes sense for them to be on the same schedule. And so the Safe Streets for All would be an amendment or a subsection in the transportation master plan. So we don't have all these transportation plans separate. So they're already going to be doing the data analysis and collection and public outreach. And so they are separately funded through two different grants, but Dow will have to put an RFP out.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
so it's in the works.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right, and then this might go to the harbor master. Do we have any idea regarding possible material cost increases due to tariffs with regard to the harbor upgrade?
None that I'm aware of at this moment. All that's been sourced, so I think we're okay.
Okay, so we've got the steel and all that.
Correct. That's my understanding.
And then my understanding is the P12 got purchased. Does anybody? I just get rumors, but have you heard?
We have not heard actuals. We've heard the same rumors, Mayor.
Well, we're on the same rumor. At least. Okay. So that'll be kind of forthcoming as to whether, whether they take on the railroad lease or whatever. And who they is. Very good. Moving on to the ordinances. I have a motion to set a date for ordinance 2025-002, amending Whittier Code 2.08.330A to authorize introduction of resolutions by the city manager, mayor, or two council members. Then
I'll make that motion.
Second.
And I'm assuming that would be the next regular meeting.
Yes, I had listed on the script that
Oh.
we were introducing it and setting it for public hearing at the May 20th, 2025 regular meeting.
Okay. Do we have discussion? Hearing none?
Voting on the motion to introduce ordinance 2025-002, amending Whittier Municipal Code 2.08.330A to authorize introduction of resolutions by the city manager, mayor, or two council members and set for public hearing at the May 20th, 2025 regular meeting. Mr. McAlto,
Yes.
Mr. Denmark,
Yes.
Mr. Pinkush,
Yes.
Mr. Shen,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
The motion passes. Ordinance in 2025-002 is introduced and set for public hearing at the May 20th, 2025 regular meeting.
Okay. Moving on to resolutions. Can I get a motion for resolution 2025-014?
Do you want me to read the title?
Yes, please.
Resolution 2025-014 is authorizing the city manager to submit the proposal to purchase Alaska Railroad Corporation lands.
We have a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion. Is there a staff report?
As at the last meeting, administration was given the direction to move forward with proposing an offer letter for the certain parcels. That offer letter was sent to the railroad. They did accept it in terms where it gave us the ability to bring back this resolution, giving you the locations as well as the definitions. As you previously know, in our MOA, there was an option for us to do a land transfer. We removed that. So this is just for the purchases of those lands. And so this resolution is giving approval for the acquisition of AOI 1 through 5 as described in the March 27th meeting. And the approval of this allows me to proceed with the action. And then it would go, if it is approved this evening, it would go in front of the Railroads Lands Committee at their next week's meeting and possibly move forward to the legislative level in May.
Do we have any questions?
Is there any divergence here from what was discussed at the last meeting?
There's some small minor, if you look at the packet, there's some maps in there. Some of the, because of the terminal master plan, there's some lands that needed to be sort of pulled out. So you have a couple acres that instead of 39 acres on the Glacier Street property, it's 34. So they're just small, minute areas, but after reviewing it and working with our consultant at the same time, they weren't anything that caused alarm to us. But it's less than 5 acres that was a difference.
Thank you.
Victor?
With this agreement, are there any lands, how would you say, like under the master lease? This would absolve the master lease, all the lands under the master lease, correct?
Yeah, and any of the, so there's railroad lands that are railroad lands, and then there's the master lease. So this would abolish that master lease, give us the ability to purchase our lands and move that forward through the legislative sessions.
But this resolution doesn't go and abolish the master lease yet.
Not yet, no, that's the goal of the bill that goes forward.
But we can still add more lands as going forward.
Add more, like ask for more?
Yeah.
At a later date or in this process here?
I think in our land acquisition resolution, there was like 90 days or something like that we could go and ask for additional.
No, that was the original plan for the MOA was for the land transfer or the land purchase. But if you're looking at adding additional lands, that's not in this scope at all, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Yeah, question, is Protzman's in Great Pacific? Well, the seafood processing, is that not part of the master lease? Is that separate? Because that would mean we're not totally abolishing the master lease.
That's a railroad lease, Mr. Pencush.
All right, thank you.
any further discussion?
Does you have a comment? I guess, thank you to the administration for putting this together. A lot of these lands, if you look at the map here, are very critical for our community in many aspects, whether it's for recreation, economic, and just and future development for the city. All these lands have serve all these purposes. Some of these lands are heavily utilized currently, such as the lot on the harbor front. Yep, AO13, and then lands here that have tons of potential future development for residential, commercial, industrial, and green space for our community. And thank you for putting it together. And I'm in support of this. And I know it's gone through a lot of different iterations, and I'm happy to see it come to this. Thank you.
Hearing no further comments,
Sorry, just one thing to note, and I think you should have it for your record. The legislation as proposed makes the sale subject to valid existing rights. So I just want to make sure that we state sort of on the record what the intention is when you say that it's subject to valid existing rights. Does that include any leases? Does that include any leasehold interests, or is that not intended to include anything other than same subsurface rights or something of such?
There is one in question, and that is working with the DOT on the strip, the landing strip. And we have been in great discussions with them. I, again, have another meeting with them, but that is the one that is causing, just, we want to have either the DOT wants to continue the lease with us, or they want to abolish the lease, or, we need their approval for that landing strip portion. But the others, they're all under our master lease, so we're not really concerned about that portion. Is that we know of right now? Yeah, that we know of right now. Yeah.
we're ready for a vote.
Voting on the motion to approve Resolution 2025-014, authorizing the city manager to submit the proposal to purchase Alaska Railroad Corporation lands. Mr. McAlto,
Yes.
Mr. Shen,
Yes.
Mr. Pinkush,
Yes.
Mr. Denmark,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
The motion passes and Resolution 2025-014 is approved.
okay, so we skipped, we added a lot of things to the consent agenda. So that takes us to other new business, item 4. Is that my,
15.
15.
right, okay. which is, so this is a discussion of city attorney solicitation. Jackie, do you have something for that?
Mayor, there's been multiple talks on both levels from our city attorney's firm as well as the council's, back and forth, but there's never been a clear direction on whether or not we are going to go out to RFP, if that is the wishes and wants of the council for us to do that RFP. And then what that looks like for future working with our legal, if we do go out to RFP, hire a new firm, and what they would be, we would still request for Birch Horton to cover for us because they are in the middle of a lot of big projects. So I think tonight, just some clear direction from council on what you're wanting in a city attorney and what you're wanting administration to do for you to help you succeed at that.
Okay, I thought we gave direction in January, but let's do it one more time. I'd ask for I guess the process would be to go out for before we get council direction, but I kind of envision that process of going out for an RFP for a new attorney firm. We would go out, hopefully we have some offers come back, and then that would be for council to review? Because we're going to, pardon?
Yep.
Yep. So are there any questions or additional criteria that council would like to add to that?
Well, just maybe to complicate matters a little bit, I guess my first question, basically, I'd like to review the why. Why are we aspiring to change here? And there's two different opinions or stories to tell. Anyway, I'd like to review that rationale.
And I agree with you, and I have to apologize. I was not at the January meeting. I apologize. I did not realize that you did give us direction. The whole time I kept thinking, okay, I need direction from the council. So you did vote to have us do that. But I do agree with Councilmember Denmark on understanding the why and then also what you want after you get the answers of the why. I think that you should start with just the maybe general replay of what your legal firm, as they are standing right now, have recommended for you. And so I would like to point to our general counsel and have them give you an answer of why it might be good for the city, or it might not.
All right, there we go. Okay, so it's been a bit since we've talked about this, but one of the reasons why is that you've had the same attorney for over a decade. And while that has been an incredible honor and opportunity, Whittier has changed and it has grown. And you also have a very sophisticated administration now that's able to handle a lot of the projects that Whittier faces. So our thought was it was appropriate for you to go out for RFP and fashion an RFP that maybe would provide I guess what we envisioned is a designated city attorney that could provide the support you need at a reduced rate. And then you would also have Birch Horton. We are not abandoning the city of Whittier. We very much, we really do very much appreciate and enjoy our work with you. And so it's not that we want to move away from that. I think it's just that we have been your council for so long. We genuinely do care about the city's best interests. And it does seem like some sort of model is worth exploring, because remember, you're under contract with us right now. And while you can fire us at any time, we are your lawyers. So we are very much enjoy being your lawyers. This is not a termination of that relationship, but it allows you to do your due diligence and see if maybe there's a smaller sort of solo practitioner or somebody who can come in and provide that general legal counsel service in a way that fits your budget to the best of their ability, and where you have that competition for that role. And then you can continue to work with Birch Wharton, or, you know, however you want to structure that, on more complex projects that require that level of expertise. So that was the original reason why we raised it. We hit the decade mark and we thought, what looks appropriate for Whittier, what we council find most efficient. Councilmember Denmark, you're looking at me unconvinced. So,
No, I don't mean to give you a and I am aware of the previous conversations at the same time, and I understand that there's budgetary issues. I also understand that you are likely working at a rate that is under the norm for some of this work at the same time. And what I have come to understand from previous conversations, that this is a mutual discussion driven mutually by both parties,
yes.
by your firm and the city. Is that a correct assessment, city manager?
Well, as your city manager, I would say there's a lot of things that your firm's going to still have to work on for us. But when you think back even to October and November of last year, there was a lot of concern and lead to just hire an in-house counsel. At the same time, I will say my opinion is that concerns me a little bit, because if you have in-house counsel, then their focus is maybe on one or two things. And when you have an entire firm, their focus and ability to help us with all of the things that we have seems to work a lot easier for us. And so, you know, when I keep saying, what does that look like for you? If you want us as administration to go out for an RFP for more of a localized law firm, I still think that you're going to have some major dollars that pass that firm, because they're with Birch Wharton, we have a variety of attorneys. They deal with our leases, they deal with our land issues, they deal with our HR issues, and a general counsel in-house is not going to have all of those bailiwicks, right? So I worry about that. But, you know, we are at the want and need. This is the city council's attorney, which is then the city's attorney. So it is your contract. It is, you know, we work really closely with them, but at the same time, I'm looking at Chris, because I know that we have all of these large projects, but I'm concerned if we try to throw that at one individual, what that dollar amount would look like too.
So, and pardon me, I'm unsatisfied with the answer here about the why. So, is Birch Wharton and Bittner looking for some relief here from the onus of working for the city of Whittier?
No, you mean relief as in you're a burden?
Well, yeah, I mean, so, you know, kind of what I'm hearing.
No, I mean, I think the city of Whittier, we are not looking for relief in that sense. You know, I mean, I think that, you know, we are under contract, and we value that contract, and we value the relationship with the city, and we very much enjoy working with both the council and the administration. I think what we were looking at is what works for council, you know, where council was and what they were looking for from legal counsel, you know, and so to the extent that we have, you know, there is a volume issue, which we do not have right now with the city of Whittier. And I think part of that is that there's additional staff and the administration, the city manager has really, I mean, I find that our projects are much more discreet and tailored this year than say last year. And that is, so I don't think it's a volume problem. And I think it really is, I take the ethical considerations of our position very seriously. We have been your lawyer for a decade and you have not gone out for RFP. And I do not believe you went out to RFP when you hired our firm. So while our rate is significantly reduced from the rate that we charge for profit enterprises or even nonprofits, that's the nature of the sort of public-private work that a municipal attorney and a law firm does. So it's not, and to the extent our contract is up, when that happens, we would be taking that into account, but it's always going to be a discounted rate. But an RFP often brings a level of competition to attorneys and the rates they're proposing. And it's your right to go through that process. And one thing to remember is if you go through an RFP process, you can always reject all proposals. And you still have, a designated city attorney under contract with specific terms. So that's one thing to keep in mind.
Okay, I'll try this from a different direction. So when is Birch, Horton, and Bittner's contract up with the city of Whittier? Round numbers.
I am
Years,
not
decades,
sure.
months.
Do you remember? Okay, I'm sorry. I should know that. But see, I don't even know.
So regardless, when that day comes,
Yes.
and if the city are at that point, put legal services out for RFP, would Bittner reply to that RFP?
I don't know. There has been a significant change in the demand for legal services and the rate charged. So that decision is not mine to make. We make it as a firm because of the discounts that we provide. And so I can't honestly say I know until I meet with the board of directors for my firm. So I will say that I would expect that we would be putting in for that RFP.
Okay, and then there would be a negotiated rate. And so I'm just trying to find the disconnect here. I
Yeah.
know that there's been a lot of conversation on the council over the last couple of years about being over budget on legal fees. And
Yes,
given that,
yeah.
which we've been doing, it seems inevitable at the same time. Anyway, I'm just trying to establish if there is a disconnect here above and beyond just telling us it's time to explore options because this marriage is getting stale.
Vice Mayor Denmark, if I can answer. So January 2023, January 1st, we signed into a contract. The term of that contract is professional services shall be for 3 years with the option to extend 2 additional terms of 2 years each. A longer term may be negotiated by the partners for initial 3 years. And that contract can be terminated at the convenience of the city.
Okay, so you're like on the hook for a while here.
Yes, we're like endangered servants.
Okay, so-
No, I'm just kidding.
And then,
No, and we are very happy to be on the hook. It is not.
okay, and then as this reads, as it does, what benefit is there to take it to RFP? I mean, you're talking about dual representation.
First, I know that my finance director has had her hand up so she can answer or ask some questions, but then I will answer that for you. My understanding back again in October and November, the request of council was to look into having an in-house counsel. It was a recommendation that was made. And then from there, it seemed to progress to, we want an in-house counsel, but at the same time, we need to know that we have these specialized counsels. So that RFP, in my mind, is both of those. we are going to have to look at what it looks like. We would still need to be into a contract with Birch Horton over certain projects that they're working on. And at the same time, going out to RFP for a general in-house counsel and what that would look like. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I want to speak to the budget issue just quickly. You know, for many years, our budget's been really low, $65,000 a year. And that might have been satisfactory in years when we weren't taking on really heavy lifts of trying to amend the code, bring our compliance up to date, tackle some really significant projects like the Huna Totem lease, clean up our leases. So I think, you know, we have failed to really seriously look at the budget side of our legal services. And instead, we've just gone along and said, we want all these things done. And at the end of the day, we're way over budget, you know, but we authorized all that work. So it probably gives the impression that that's the fault of the legal firm that's costing so much money. And that's absolutely false, because we, the council, authorized, you know, amending the code, reviewing lots of sections of the code. You've had work sessions to prioritize those sections of the code, and we've been working through those for the last few years. And that comes at, you know, a significant cost, because it's a lot of work with a multitude of attorneys. We're not just talking about Holly. It's really a whole team of people. So I think that, you know, what we ought to have done, and it just never dawned on me to try it, was really to anticipate from the council what the lift was going to be in the next year and in the next 2 years, and then have the legal firm estimate what those costs were going to be to do that. And they did actually do that along the way. You asked them, what's it going to cost to do all these things? And you picked the things you wanted done. We simply failed to amend the budget then to reflect what we selected. It wasn't a big deal from our standpoint, because the bottom line was we had cost savings in the budget elsewhere that allowed us to absorb those additional costs relative to the budget. So we didn't exceed the overall budget. But still, it would have been really more fair to have amended the budget so that our legal fees don't appear to have exceeded budget. So I'll just say that. Secondly, you know, it's council's call about whether we have an in-house counsel, but I really ask you to take a look at that, because, you know, you're talking about having to equip that person who probably doesn't have a lot of experience with all the tools and resources that they would need to get up to speed on issues that our firm is already up to speed on. And to be honest with you, I think with the team we have at the city, the types of roles that would be taken on by an in-house counsel are largely things that we can kind of take on ourselves without that additional cost. Holly will be the expert on that can tell me I'm totally wrong. So I just don't know that the in-house counsel idea is reasonable, just in terms of being effective and really working for Whittier. I mean, we're so small. We kind of know internally the kinds of work that needs to be done. And when we can't handle it because it's something above our skill set, then I think we're really good at knowing that and punting to the attorneys. I'll also say in the last 2 years that we have had so many things going on that are significant lifts where we really burdened the attorneys, and without a lot of notice. It's like, we need this and we need it now, and we need it last week, you know, because council had a lot of priorities that were happening at the same time. So I do believe it's fair to say there was frustration because we had a lot of legal work that was happening concurrently. And so I don't know if that kind of played into the attorneys saying, you know, maybe you need more help than what we're able to give you, because we on our side didn't really know how to plan out the legal services that we were going to need, because so many things were coming at us at the same time. I would say that, you know, we are not out of the woods in terms of the legal services we need. We need some really heavy lifting legal services, as we have been getting. So I think no matter what council decides to do, we have to have a relationship with this firm. This firm knows this city so well. There are things like, I'll just say Shotgun Cove Road, and municipal land entitlements. Those are very specific things, very complicated things. They're going to need heavy lifting, and it may be that once we identify what all those things are, that the firm says, we can't do all that. You guys, you are too much of a burden, in which case get someone who can do the easy stuff, and then we'll focus on the big stuff. So I think, it might be just a little premature to know for sure what we need, because I don't really think we have sat together as a group and really identified over the next year and 2 years how much legal services we are going to. I don't think, when I say we're not, still have some really big things. We have the lease issues that are going to be happening after the Alaska Railroad. We do have the land allocation plan that Holly's firm is very familiar with. We have a lot of cleaning up of leases that's involved a lot of legal time, because it's going back decades and looking at what was done and fixing things and cleaning things. So I just don't think we can just go out to RFP and get a new attorney and say, thank you very much, it's been 10 years. I do think it's best practice to go out to RFP and try to get a better deal. But there are certain times when, auditing is a great example. When you do that, to go out and get auditors, the bottom line is you get what you pay for. You want to save money, you can save money, and you're going to get what you pay for. And I would say the same thing is true with legal services. If you want attorneys that know what they're doing and are going to keep you out of lawsuits, you're going to have to pay more money for that. So at the very least, we probably need to negotiate with our current firm, if we decide to go that route, at least a revised contract. So for whatever that's worth, I just think, I hope we don't do anything hasty, because I think, there's a lot of unanswered questions for all of us. So
I don't see the legal needs of the city of Whittier over the next decade. I don't see us having fewer legal requirements. Okay. I do see that we're less than halfway through on several big projects. And it takes a while for a law firm to come up to speed with that kind of thing. And it really wouldn't make sense to bring in a new law firm in that context. That being said, it takes a while, just as a new city manager, it takes a while for them to come up to speed. And I think the recommendation of our current law firm is, let's go out to RFP. We can always, like Holly said, we can always turn them all down. I personally don't, we can review all of those law firms. I don't see us being able to reduce our legal needs to the point where we're going to have a mom and pop attorney firm. I think possibly a mid-size or someone that's 4 or 5 lawyers instead of 10 or 12 might be. But that transition, I see that transition taking a minimum of 4 years. We've got a lot of balls that are still rolling that would best be addressed with the law firm we have. So the reason why I put this RFP on the agenda is at the recommendation of our current law firm. So,
Mayor, if I can ask, is it something that needs to be a priority in the next 6 months, the next year? Like we have, like you just said, we have all of these things that are happening, and though they've been our attorney for 10 years, that is also something that should be looked at because they have been our attorney for 10 years. They do have all that history. And with what your administration's working on, as well as what we're working on with your current, as your administration, I would request that we could possibly, postpone even putting out an RFP for at least a year to 2 years. But that's my request.
In the spirit of, if the flow of work has become consistent, Holly, and more manageable than whatever kerfuffle may have been, or the burden, a burdensome period has perhaps passed here. If we do not act on this at this time, will this be acceptable to you?
Yes, of course. And I think one of the things I can talk to the administration about too is if we do come to a place where we are high volume, several complex projects at the same time, and we feel like, and you feel like, or there's a responsiveness problem, like we're just not producing quick enough. We can also talk about hiring a contract attorney. But basically, we have the ability to contract with other attorneys through the firm and subject them to the rates and terms of our agreement with the city. That doesn't mean they will accept those terms, and we may have to offer them, but that's another resource that I didn't really think about before, but we can explore using that as an option. And hopefully we won't need that. We did just hire two new attorneys in the last week. They both started this week, so we're very excited about that. One of those attorneys, his name is Jeff Davis. He will be working with Whittier often. The other one is Richard Moses, who will also be working with the city, especially on litigation matters, and election matters to the extent they arise.
So, and hopefully to finish this up, I'm going to try to answer my initial question, was basically why we're having this conversation was due to a high volume of work in recent history that indicated that there may be a need, which sounds to me like has passed. Is that a fair statement?
I think so, but if I say that, what's tomorrow going to look like? No, yes.
Of course,
Yes,
it's fluid.
Councilmember Denmark. Yes, I think that we are definitely in a much more. I do not have the same concerns that accompanied our advice before, that we just could not meet those sort of small in-house projects that were happening sort of on the daily, and also the navigation of the dynamic issues or sort of cultural issues that were presented on council that sometimes do best with someone who's in the community. So, but we'll keep an eye, as long as we keep an eye on that, and we'll report back to council if that becomes, or if we're concerned that you need that attorney. I think one of the things, just to be completely candid, I worried about is it's very important to our firm that our credibility and our with council as well as the administration remains intact. So when there's any perception that our legal advice is tailored towards the best interests of council as a body, as opposed to the city as a municipality, or the administration as opposed to the city, that makes me nervous. Because that's something I take great pride in, is that we always deliver services, even when we have to say hard things, that serve, in our opinion, our legal opinion, the benefit of the community. So that's another area that, to the extent we feel like that is waning, or that your trust in our services is waning, we will just raise it with council if that's okay.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any more questions regarding this topic?
Mayor, if I can we get a motion? Our clerk has written that up. So what that would look like, it would cancel out what you guys had voted for in January. It would amend that. So if Shelby can read it and make a recommendation.
Yeah, let's hear it.
what I have so far is postpone direction to administration to send out an RFP for a new general counsel city attorney. I don't have a timeline on it though. So if you want us to revisit the topic at a certain time, you might add that on to the end of it.
I don't see a need to put a timeline on it.
Okay.
If some party wants us to address it again, then we'll address it at that time.
So would you rather have the language then say that you rescind the direction to administration to send out an RFP for a new general counsel city attorney?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Can I have a motion, please? In a second.
I second.
Ready? Voting on the motion to rescind direction to administration to send out an RFP for a new general counsel city attorney. Mr. Denmark.
Yes.
Mr. McCulto.
Yes.
Mr. Pincush.
Yes.
Mr. Shen.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
The motion passes and the direction is rescinded.
The next topic is the May DC agenda. And what I was hoping is to, I don't really have a good feel for what our objectives are as we go forward to DC.
Mayor, I can answer a lot of those, and then at the same time, I've booked all the itinerary. I've been working with our federal lobbyist, Sebastian O'Kelly. I spoke with him today. These trips to DC, there are times that we don't receive the total agenda until like 2 days before we fly out, but we do know what our priorities are and what our discussions. So he did provide me a general list of who we will be visiting. And then over the next week or so, I was hoping that I could schedule a meeting with both you and Mr. Shen so that we can sort of talk about the topics. But just so that you know, currently we are set up with our two senators. We're meeting with Representative Baggage. We're meeting with the Army Corps, DOD, DOT, MIRAD, DOT, Federal Lands, Highways, EPA, U.S. Forest Service, and the State of Alaska Governor's Office. So we'll have 2, if not 3 days fully packed with these meetings. The DOD meeting will most likely be a whole day event. And our goal is, as it always is to work on our priorities that we have worked on and that you as a council have approved, but then also follow up on a lot of the things that we are already having moving, as even just the railroad land purchase, the DeLong dock, the Word of Belt, like all of these things that we have already working on. It's our chance as a city to sit down with the officials to just keep moving. And with the way that the federal government has postponed a lot of funding or just wiped it clean, this gives us the ability to just put forward our good front and show that what we've been working on and that we've really used the funding to the benefit of this community. So that's my update that I have for you tonight. And I do have an itinerary for travel, and I was just waiting for Seb to give me a little bit more background. And then our goal will be to provide you some talking points and white sheets so that we have a really clear direction on what we need to do.
Thank you. Moving on to the next topic is, or next item is the Whittier local police presence. I've had a number of community members come forward. There was, I guess, one day that stands out with regard to some drama that happened in the community. And I'm not real clear on the exact timelines. I know it happened in like I'm guessing like a 5 hour period. They had an incident where somebody was pepper spraying a residence or several residences, and then seemed like, in fact, the police chief might know a little bit more about the timelines than me. And then anyway, there was also not that far down the road, it seemed like there was another individual that was walking around in a residence with an axe. So.
On the specific incident at BTI, there is actually a press release on the city's website and circulating on that date. It just happens to be one of those days where officers were on another critical call, and they had to come back for this one. We had 2 officers working on felony assault burglary with a firearm in Girdwood area. They were doing search warrants. When this call came in, they both rode code to this call. To conclusion of the call and the investigation, one resident was charged with 2 counts of felony terroristic threatening, reckless endangerment, assault, as well as criminal trespass. If there is an emergency in Whittier, we just ask residents to call 911. There could be an officer here, or once it's called, 911's called. If it's an emergency, the officer will respond in code. And it doesn't matter if it's a police department or the fire department, EMS, if they have a call outside. It could be hypothetically, and hypothetically, when we had the emergency on the Seward Highway, where all hands, police, fire, and EMS was on a major fatality. If we had an emergency, we'd still have to call an officer back to assist here. So it just depends on the totality of circumstance. This particular day was a bad day for law enforcement because we had 2 major calls going on in 2 communities. But generally, we try to keep an officer present. Some people, if you need a police officer, please call. If it's an emergency, dial 911. And again, if you have any questions, you can always call the non-emergency line. They could talk to an officer. Or if you have other questions, feel free to give me a call. Majority of the town have my cell phone number. I answer, unfortunately, day or night. But on this particular day in question, we did have 2 officers responding. The investigation continued even through the second day, working with staff at BTI to collect more evidence from that assault and issues at the BTI.
Okay. So have we transitioned to the Valdez dispatch?
We are currently in the process of doing that. The tentative date is set for April 30th at 8 a.m. to transfer phone lines. Since the end of March, and we've been working with Valdez Police Department to help facilitate the smooth transition. Anchorage Police Department, Anchorage Fire Department have been contacted because in the Girdwood service area, those 911 calls go to their PSAP, which is Anchorage Police, to transfer those lines to Valdez. We've worked with our local telco, United Utilities Unicom, UUI, on transferring lines. It's been phenomenal working from them. From past experiences has not been great, but this experience has been great. We're also working with cellular companies because one things we've done with Valdez is they're going to what's called Rapid SOS for 911 calls in our area. What that is a software-based subscription that if someone in our area or on the other side of the tunnel here dials 911, it rings through our dispatch center in Valdez. But before they even have a chance to pick up the phone, it goes through a bunch of software to help give you geographic locations on cell phones. So it's easier to send emergency responders via police, fire, EMS, Coast Guard. So we're working with them on that issue as well. The only minor hiccup we're going to have is the software compatibility. We've worked with their engineers. They're using what's called the computer aided dispatch is a different software than what we're using. So they're developing a patch so we could go through what's called our records management system, RMS. So all their dispatch notes get smoothly transitioned over into our report writing modules and evidence modules of that nature. But it's really good. They have been monitoring our radio frequency since the first week of April. They have the state-of-the-art equipment. We did not have to provide them with the equipment as we previously did. We just did shared service agreement with AMR. They got permissions, and talk groups were entered, and within 1 day, they're monitoring our frequency, and then we're transitioning over on that date. The fire will have their own frequency, so we don't have any overlap. It's working out really well. The only thing we're doing right now is working with the municipality of Anchorage for jurisdictional issues, specifically the tunnel area. Other than that, I believe it's going smoothly. The other thing is they have a full dispatch center with generally 2 dispatchers on per shift, as well as a dispatch supervisor, which makes it a lot easier. And they already had lines set up for transitioning our phone system to them.
And are there plans to invite some of their supervisors or somebody over to have Whittier's, a tiny little place, but it gets, we have nicknames for things, and it makes it very difficult for someone from Cordova or elsewhere to understand what the heck we're saying.
Their current acting chief, which is their lieutenant, was a former Whittier officer in the early 2000s, as well as Whittier does do direct ferry service from here to Valdez. We've actually discussed us doing a site visit with their dispatch center as well as them coming over. That's just logistics, because the biggest problem with taking the ferry is 4-day turnaround. So they have to stay there. But the other advantage is a lot of their folks and Valdez residents come through Whittier via the ferry, because sometimes it's a lot easier than driving the highway route around. So we will work with them again to finalize that, because it'd be good educational experience, not only for them to understand certain landmarks in Whittier that we have nicknames for, as well as see what Whittier's like. And unlike when we get calls that, we need to send an officer to the YMCA next to the First Baptist Church, like, what are you talking about? And then we ask that dispatch center, what's the prefix to that number, California? Refer them to the Whittier Police Department in Whittier, California. So we've had those types of calls before. So with this, it should be a smoother transition. I believe they probably have a better geographic knowledge of our area, because they're on the road system just like us.
Great. So we're down to informational items, reports. Is there anything that the administration wants to mention with regard to these informational?
No, Mayor, there's not. You can
Okay.
move on to your council comments.
So, okay, do we have any council comments?
None here.
Mr. Mayor,
Victor?
council comments. Some comments I have. I would like to give a shout out again to our administration, our directors, for their successes and efforts in acquiring grants for our community. I mean, that's just to reiterate that number. You guys know, $27 million in capital projects and grants. In comparison to our annual budget as a city, that's huge. So thank you again. You guys are really bringing a lot of value to our community. Another one is kind of, since we received that grant from the Denali Commission in order for the Shotgun Cove Road project, I have some questions about the lands out out which way the road accesses all of the Shotgun Cove and the Passage Canal properties. That this road will access some of it, and these lands have been conveyed to the city many years ago with some stipulations, some conditions, and I I find it just surprising why they have them, and I would like, I guess, talking with our lawyer and other people, they find that it's also surprising to them, these stipulations, like having to sell them within a certain time period, or after conveyance to us. And now as we get our road built closer, I guess I would love to see how, if it is possible to go back and revisit or explore more into these conditions that these land conveyances have. That makes sense. Such as, you know what I'm talking about, like the
Like,
we got an extension recently. Like if we didn't sell off the lands, we had to give it back to the state, and it would be out of our control. Basically, land surrounding our community would be out of our control. We would not have much say as to future developments and the direction that adjacent lands to our community would be. But our administration worked to get these extensions. However, these conditions that we are subject to, I'd like to have questions about them, and I would love to perhaps maybe in the future have a work session or a if necessary executive session discussion regarding them. And these are the Shotgun Cove, the municipal entitlement land conveyances.
I think it's the DNR. Is that who we
Yeah.
had that agreement with?
Yeah, and what Victor or Mr. Shen is talking about is the conveyance. We did get an extension of 15 years, which, we're very excited about that instead of waiting 5 years and then another 5 years. And so we do have a 15-year extension. Though there are some stipulations in that 15 years gives you some time because we're still building a road, but I'm always about Shotgun Cove Road, and I always think that we should have more input and work sessions on it. So if the council wants those, we can, but as you're moving forward and as we're getting closer, it is definitely on the list of all of your administration. But we do have the comfort in knowing that we now have at least a 15-year extension and that we don't have to worry about change in administration, change in councils, and letting it drop off the plate. So you do have an administration now that it is always in the forefront for us.
With my concerns are we have a lot of projects forefront right now taking center stage for us with waterfront economic development, our harbor, head of the bay. However, I want, I guess, to start prepping us to start looking out east, where we're also investing a lot of our resources, mainly in the form of administrative and acquiring these grants. But like, how do we want these lands to look? I mean, they are currently, like, people are using these lands already, and we're going to be changing use patterns here in a little bit with the construction of a road. There have been lots of comments about resources that will no longer be there. Primarily speaking, like the trail, our coastline. We have several miles of coastline under these municipal entitlements, and I want us to start thinking about, like, how do we want those to look for us? How do we want to see or set it up for development, and start thinking about it, because if we don't, someone else will. And
So, I couldn't agree more.
yeah, but
I will tell you that, and I know these words are going to ring so true, and I'm going to get big smiles from all of you when we say it. At the same time, both Addison and I wrote comp plan. So that's one of those processes that you can introduce into that comp plan. So know that that's also on our list, but we wrote it at the same time.
So, and essentially, there was probably three of us doing that. There are land use changes, and I think it's that are coming.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. We're having a huge change in traffic patterns, and we want to do it safely, and we also want to do it harmoniously with the needs and wants of the community. And the best way to begin that conversation is in a comp plan.
That's one thing, like 15 years does seem like a long time, but I know that, these plans, that time will go by fast. And, despite their extension, like how, I guess to be forward, how would you have these conditions redacted from these land conveyances to us? And I would be interested in expending some of not expending, but utilizing our resources to look into it, primarily legal resources. I guess that's where I would be.
Man.
Yep.
Here we go. So the Municipal Land Entitlement Act and the selections that were provided for the municipality, it's different for Whittier than what we see in most municipalities. And so I think what Councilmember Shen is suggesting is something I would just say from a legal perspective, it's worth asking the questions. And I think that the administration had a really great working relationship with DNR when they negotiated the extension. And I think DNR was very responsive. So if I understand you correctly, in part you're saying, can we have that conversation about what if to the extent it's an entitlement under a statute, is there a reason that it's encumbered and that there are these requirements? And what is DNR's stance on allowing the community to retain them for core services? And I think that's a question that maybe is bolstered by the comp plan, but I just wanted to share that sort of legal perspective. And then I don't know how you want to handle that, but I think administration can direct us to look into the legal piece and can look into the
thing that got me was like, this was something that was kind of unique. These conditions were unique to us. And I'm like, why are they unique to us? Why do other communities aren't shackled with similar conditions, and why is ours? Or maybe it's something little back there, and that. Yeah.
It is a
Thank
good
you.
question. We tried to find the answer to that question. We looked at documents and we talked to the state with archives and records, like trying to figure out why we would have property that was sort of a conditional transfer. We don't know the answer to that question. So I think it is very helpful to know that. I mean, when we look at Kenai Peninsula Borough, for example, they went through a Municipal Land Entitlement Act. They're the most recent that I could think of off the top of my head. They made their selections. Those selections were transferred. They sold them by auction, some of them. And I believe they retained some of them. So I don't think that those properties came with the same conditions that Whittier has on the property conveyed to it.
Yeah, I've always felt that I'm grateful that we had that DNR came forward and made that offer, but how to actually make it happen seems like a giant ballywindow. I mean, it's the chicken and the egg, and maybe a tire rolling through the middle of it.
And as legal said, we have a really good working relationship when we started. And I mean, getting a 15-year extension was like, we we were shocked because we thought we were going to have to grovel a little bit more. But I think that we have such a good relationship with them, and they understand and recognize the significance of the project. It wouldn't hurt for us to sit down with them and have a meeting and just discuss what the concerns are and see if they can change and update that deed for us. So we can do that. Yeah, and we can do that on our DC trip too.
So, we have an executive session coming up, and the topic of that executive session, it turns out, wasn't exactly as I expected. And
Mr. Mayor, might I interrupt? Are you still on council comments? You are. Okay. Thank you.
There are community members that are in a they're involved in legal proceedings in which I think there's an opportunity for council to present a solid front and show our support for specifically our Samoan community, that we have a great presence here. And I, long story short, I'd like to, if I have a rough draft of a resolution that I think with a little bit of help from Jackie and Holly would be, I think it would be very productive for bringing a little clarity for our community and show our support for the Samoan community. And so to that regard, I was hoping to get council to agree to have a short special session meeting in 2 weeks from today, say at 6 o'clock. And I don't know if you, and basically what we would do was present this resolution, and council could modify it or what have you, and then based on the merits of the resolution, either vote for it or not. And the timeliness is, I think it has relevance. There's going to be some legal proceedings that happen in the first couple of days of May, and it would be nice that we, I think it would be a great opportunity for this council to give voice to our community and support our Samoan community members. So with that in mind, do we have, I'd ask council to consider a special meeting, I guess it would be the last Tuesday of April. Does that work with administration? Are you going to be available, Jackie?
Yes, Mayor. That would be April 29th by looking at the calendar.
Yep.
Administration is available.
Council members, would you be willing to, I mean, I'm guesstimating it would be like a 20-minute meeting.
And the specific agenda for the meeting would be, agenda item would be,
a resolution of support for the the situation that is being brought forward regarding about 10 members of our community. And it, it outlines sort of the situation of what happened and how we can weigh in as a council and discuss well, not discuss, but basically make a statement of support.
Okay, so the meeting would be for us to generate a statement or a resolution of or in support.
In support, and it would probably have a couple of whereases regarding our support of you know, the 14th Amendment, and which is you know, the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, and essentially touch on some of the things that we have sworn oath to with regard to supporting the United States Constitution and how it pertains to this particular issue.
No,
Mayor?
I think the issue needs to be discussed somehow, somewhere along the line here, so.
Yeah, I guess my
Yeah,
concern,
sure.
there's active legal proceedings. Because of this, I guess I would love to hear our legal counsel.
We're going to hear some of that in executive session, but the whole idea of meeting with Jackie and Holly would be to make sure that we stay within the scope of a local council. You know, it doesn't do us any good if we go outside of that, in my opinion, because we are a council that believes in the rule of law, and we're going to stay within that guideline. That's my intent. But I think how this situation impacts our community is going to be it will be significant, and I think it is a huge opportunity for this council to have a unified position. So, and I think Holly's versed on this and is very capable of keeping us focused.
One other thing, Mayor, just one thing that council should be aware of. So this will be a difficult session to navigate for council and for legal because of the role of the city and the city clerk in administering elections and following the laws and statutes as laid out in, you know, the Alaska statutes, and making sure that we are complying with the laws as they pertain to pending investigations. But another thing that your administration has brought up is to the extent there is a change in federal or state law that the council identifies as being in the best interests of the citizens and residents of Whittier, that's also something we can discuss at that meeting and what that looks like. Because while I really appreciate the mayor noting that we are obligated to and dedicated to complying with the law in both our election practices and in you know, respecting the state's role in investigations that we are not, you know, a part of. There are other things for council to look at here, and so I think we're trying to look at that. What kind of legislative action can the city support, maybe by resolution or otherwise, that says that they want to see the citizens of Whittier, the residents of Whittier, having that acts, you know, voting as any other citizen of a U.S. territory or otherwise, you know, and so, or a U.S. citizen, you know, finding that language and understanding that law. So we are researching. We've been directed to research that law. We are doing that. We will bring that to that meeting So I say this only to sort of, I think there's a couple issues. There is the public records request and the denial, and council, what direction will go when looking at the appeals proceedings surrounding that, which we will talk about in executive session. There is the, what are the laws pertaining to voting rights in a local election? And how do we influence those laws if they do not reflect the interests of council or what are your residents? And then the other piece is the, what is our role or obligation in an investigation that is being, that is a investigation in the state of Alaska, and making sure we are really careful to discuss each of those in turn, and so they do not bleed over into one another in a way that compromises or makes the city vulnerable for action or otherwise. If that's helpful.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we will definitely be looking to not interfere with other entities, specifically in this case, the state.
So Mayor, I just want to confirm, the request is for a special meeting April 29th. Does the clerk want to vote for that, or are we good with just scheduling it? So
The mayor can call.
if you,
A special
you
meeting,
can
so-
I
call
could
it.
call
so-
it, but I wanted to inform council so that they have, if they have an opportunity to pencil in something at 6 o'clock on the 29th, as well as administration, it'd be very appreciated.
Yeah, that was the next question was, do you have a time? So we will put out a special meeting request for April 29th at 6 PM. Does that sound good to council?
Yep.
I turned it off instead of turning it on. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody that has signed up?
First, we have Don Stevens. Did you want to speak again? Okay, excellent. Then there are no others signed in.
Okay, do we have anybody in the audience that would like to have a citizen discussion? Rachel?
Where to start? No, actually, I just wanted to take a moment and special thanks, Peter, for making that motion and supportive of building on our playground equipment, and the council. I want to thank you entirely for your unanimous support of that decision, and Jackie and the staff who's involved in getting that going, and our public works. I'm grateful for your guys' attitude and just looking forward to that. And I just wanted to thank you all for, I know you have a lot going on right now, and just that little prioritizing something for our youth just really meant a lot to me. So I don't know why my voice is shaking, but, and public work, Parks and Recs, we've have some really, some beautiful art around town. So I just want to shout out to them and for making that possible. It's just those little things that, just make it feel more like home. So anyways, thank you.
Okay, looks like we're down to executive session. Oh, you want a break? Okay, let these youngsters have a break.
You could vote to go into it.
Are we taking a break?
For 11 and a half minutes.
Okay.
council's out of session, and I'd ask for a motion to move into executive session, keeping Holly Wells and Jackie Wild.
So moved.
Second.
Can I read into the record what you're going into executive session for?
Yes, please.
And that was Denmark, you first made the motion and Chen seconded? Or was that was, okay, thank you. Okay, so the motion is to enter into executive session to discuss legal action against the State of Alaska Department of Public Safety and potential appeal of denial of public records request, matters of which, if immediately disclosed, would tend to adversely affect the finances of the city under Whittier Municipal Code 2.08.040A, and matters of pending or anticipated, litigation, Whittier Municipal Code 2.08.040C. Ready to vote? Okay. Voting on the motion to enter into executive session, Mr. Denmark,
Yes.
Mr. Shen,
Yes.
Mr. Pinkush,
Yes.
Mr. McAlto,
Yes.
Mr. Minger.
Yes.
The motion passes and the council enters into executive session at 9:04 p.m. Mr. Pinkush, I'm going to turn off the restream or just pause it momentarily. So I'll need you to go access the Teams link that I sent you earlier so that you guys can have executive session.
Got it.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, ask for a motion to come out of executive session. And second,
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Hearing no discussion, voting on the motion to exit executive session, Mr. Shen,
Yes.
Mr. McAlto,
Yes.
Mr. Pinkish.
Yes.
Mr. Denmark,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
yes.
The motion passes and council exits executive session at 9:31 PM.
Yeah, ask for a motion for, just read the motion, please.
The motion is to direct legal counsel to move forward with items discussed in executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no discussion, voting on the motion to direct legal counsel to move forward with items discussed in executive session. Mr. Shen,
Yes.
Mr. McAlto,
Yes.
Mr. Denmark,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Pinkish, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
The motion passes and legal counsel is directed to move forward with items discussed in executive session.
Okay, my favorite time. Call for an adjournment. Or motion.
You don't need to do that on there. We're adjourned.
You can just say, is there any further business? There being no further business, the meeting is adjourned at, and then say the time.
Meeting is adjourned at 9:33:06.